Everyone, my dear viewers. In this video you'll see real-style moments where Americans face culture, rules and environments that don't just no arguments, no drama, just quit boundaries that don't move.
I was standing behind a hotel desk when a man pointed at the rain outside and said, "We paid for sunshine." I smiled carefully. "That's weather, sir." His wife leaned closer. "Then who manages it?" The lobby went quiet. Even the elevator seemed to stop judging slowly. In northern Norway, I was helping tourists check into a small lodge when an American man stormed in wearing brand new snow boots with tags still attached. "Your darkness is defective," he said. I thought he meant the room lights. He pointed outside. "It's for in the afternoon." "Why is the sky acting like midnight?" I explained we were above the Arctic Circle, and winter daylight worked differently here. He frowned like I had personally negotiated with the sun. "No, but the brochure showed blue skies." His teenage daughter whispered, "Dad, brochures use photos." He ignored her completely, which made the silence more expensive. Then he asked if we had a daylight room. I said every room faced the same planet. The receptionist beside me dropped a pen and didn't pick it up. His wife stared at the window, realizing slowly that nature had no customer service department. I almost felt bad. Almost. He finally said, "So what do people do here?" A local man by the fireplace answered without looking up. "We continue." That line landed softly, but it ended the conversation. The tourist nodded like he had just lost an argument with Earth itself. Nobody laughed until he left. In Lisbon, I watched an American woman at a cafe ask the waiter why the streets had too many hills. She wasn't joking. She held a paper map like evidence in court. "We're walking everywhere," she said. Couldn't the city make the tourist areas flatter? The waiter blinked once. He said, "Madam, Lisbon is old." She replied, "Old doesn't mean inconvenient." A British couple at the next table stopped buttering their bread. I looked into my coffee because making eye contact felt dangerous. The waiter nodded politely, the way professionals do when madness arrives with sunglasses. She asked if there was a complaint form for the hills. The waiter said, "For the municipality." She smiled. "For whoever designed this." A cyclist pushing his bike uphill actually laughed, then pretended to cough. Her husband whispered, "Maybe let this one go." She did not. Finally, the waiter pointed toward the river and said, "Down is easier." Silence. That was all. No lecture. No geography lesson. Just gravity, offered as customer support. She looked at the slope, then at him, then at her shoes. For once, the city had the final word. In Tokyo, I was standing near a ticket gate when an American tourist tried to tap his hotel key card onto the reader. The gate stayed closed. He tapped harder. Nothing. A station worker approached and bowed slightly. "Train card." The tourist held up the key. "This opens my room." The worker nodded, confused but respectful. "Not train." The man looked offended. "But it has a chip." His friend stepped back, already sensing public embarrassment forming around them. I saw two commuters slow down just enough to witness it without admitting they were watching. The tourist said, "In America, cards work everywhere now." The worker's face remained calm, but his eyes briefly left his body. He pointed to the ticket machine. "Train ticket there." The man sighed dramatically, like Japan had failed modernity by separating hotels from public transport. Then a schoolboy walked past, tapped his transit card, and disappeared through the gate in one smooth motion. The American stared after him. Nobody said anything. That was the painful part. The system didn't argue. It simply opened for the person who understood it.
At this point, I think nothing could surprise me anymore. Guys, I was wrong.
In Rome, I was behind a couple at a gelato shop when the American man asked for the Caesar flavor. The woman behind the counter smiled, thinking he meant something funny. He leaned closer. "You know, Julius Caesar. This is Rome. You must have a historical flavor." Her smile retired immediately. She offered pistachio, lemon, chocolate, and stracciatella. He shook his head. No ancient options. His wife touched his arm. "Please don't make gelato political." A student near the door lowered his phone, not recording, just preserving the moment in his soul. I understood him completely. He tried again. "Okay, what would Caesar have eaten?" The server said, "Food." No smile. No sarcasm. Just fact. He nodded like this helped. "Right, but flavor-wise." A man behind me whispered, "Leave him." The couple stepped aside, ordered vanilla, and walked out quieter than they came in. In Berlin, I watched an American tourist argue with a museum guard about closing time. "It's for 59, he said, holding up his phone like legal proof. "You close at 5. The guard nodded. "We are closing." The man smiled. "Great, so I still have a minute." The guard did not move. He stepped toward the exhibit anyway. The guard said, "No more entry." Same tone. Same volume. The man laughed nervously. "But it's still before 5. A woman near the exit paused, coat half on, watching this unfold like a quiet ritual she'd seen before. The guard looked at the clock, then back at him. Closing means closing. No explanation. The man stood there, recalculating reality. I felt a brief second of sympathy, then it passed. The lights dimmed slightly. That wasn't dramatic. It was final. He walked out slowly, not defeated, just corrected. Outside, he checked his phone again like time might apologize. It didn't. The door closed behind him with a soft click that sounded like a period at the end of a sentence nobody debated. In Prague, I was at a restaurant when an American woman asked if she could custom build a traditional dish. "No onions, no sauce, no dumplings, and can you make it gluten-free?" The waiter nodded slowly, writing nothing down. "That would be a different dish." She smiled. "Exactly." He paused, then said, "We serve this dish as it is." She leaned forward. "But I'm the customer." The table next to us went quiet mid-conversation. Even the clinking of glasses seemed to step back. The waiter didn't argue. He simply stood there, holding the menu like a boundary. Her friend whispered, "Maybe just order something else." She shook her head. "No, I want this." The waiter nodded once. "Then this is how it comes." Silence again. No escalation. No apology. Just a fixed point in the middle of her expectations. She stared at him, waiting for flexibility to appear. It didn't. Eventually, she said, "Fine," like she had negotiated something. When the dish arrived unchanged, she looked at it like it had betrayed her personally. Nobody explained anything. It didn't need explanation. In Reykjavik, I heard an American man ask a tour guide if the volcanoes ran on a schedule. Like, do they erupt seasonally? The guide blinked once. No. The man nodded, processing. But you must have predictions. The guide said, sometimes. The man smiled. So, a calendar. A couple behind him exchanged a look that said, here we go. The guide tried again. We monitor activity. The man leaned in. Right, but for planning trips. That's when the guide stopped explaining and just said, no calendar. Calm. Final. The man laughed like it was a joke. It wasn't. I felt that small, familiar second where you hope someone else will intervene. No one did. The wind picked up slightly, like the landscape itself had an opinion but chose not to express it. He pulled out his phone, searching anyway, like the internet might override geology. It didn't. The guide moved on to the next topic without acknowledging the gap. That was the answer. Not words, just the conversation continuing without him.
Friends, listen please this story and write your comments. Thank you.
In Venice, I saw an American tourist ask if the canals were cleaned nightly. He said it casually, like asking about street sweeping. The gondolier paused mid-sentence. The canals? The man nodded. Yeah, like drained and refilled. Otherwise, how do you keep them fresh? The gondolier looked at the water, then back at him. They are not drained. The man frowned. But that's unsanitary. A woman nearby covered her mouth, not laughing, just preventing something from escaping. The gondolier shrugged slightly, as if to say, this is water, not a product. He asked, so who's responsible for maintenance? The gondolier said, the city. The man nodded, satisfied for half a second. Then they should improve it. Silence. The kind that doesn't argue, it just waits for the idea to collapse under its own weight. Eventually, he leaned back and said, we'd never allow this back home. No one responded. Not because they agreed, but because nothing needed to be defended. The canal moved exactly as it always had, completely uninterested in international standards. In Vienna, I was at a concert hall when an American tourist whispered loudly, when does the drop happen? The orchestra was mid-performance. A man in front of him turned slightly, not fully, just enough. The tourist leaned closer. You know, like the beat drop. The man said, it doesn't. Then turned back. That was it. No explanation of classical music. No correction. Just absence. The tourist sat back slowly, like he had just discovered a genre that refused to perform for him. The music continued, completely unchanged. In Zurich, I watched an American man try to board a train after the doors had already closed. He knocked lightly first, then harder. The train didn't respond. He turned to the conductor on the platform. Just open it for a second, he said. The conductor shook his head once. It has departed. But it's still here, the man insisted, pointing at the train like evidence. The conductor repeated, it has departed. Same words. Same tone. A woman beside me adjusted her scarf, not reacting, just existing inside a system that didn't negotiate with urgency. The man laughed, expecting flexibility to appear if he stayed confident. It didn't. The train began to move, slowly, almost politely. He stepped back, confusion replacing irritation. I felt it too, that small moment where you realize the rules aren't suggestions. He looked at the schedule board, then back at the conductor. So? I missed it. The conductor nodded. No lecture. No sympathy performance. Just confirmation. The man stood there for a second longer than necessary, like the answer might soften if he waited. It didn't. The platform returned to normal immediately, like nothing had happened. That was the part that stayed with me. Not the missed train, but how quickly the world continued without adjusting for it.
My dear friends, did you like these stories? If so, like and write in the comments what topics you would like to hear the next stories on. Bye bye.